There was an idea. Stark knows this. Called the Avengers Initiative. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people. See if they could become something more. See if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles that we never could.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we're your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
We are back.
It feels like forever.
It does.
Why is that, you think?
2 weeks always feels
it feels
a long time, but not. Well, because in the last 2 weeks... Because I remember when we launched the episode,
yeah,
I was like trying to do it on site at Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
Trying to like make sure the Miles Morales episode was good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my gosh.
like 2 weeks ago, I was in Tennessee for a festival.
And I was in North Carolina.
Yeah, for work.
Yeah.
And so...
We're both like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Yeah, I was doing it via my phone.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, because I was in the center.
I was literally like copying via my, like trying to send you the file via
yeah. Oh my
phone.
Gosh. Yeah, it's funny because like as the days are going by, it feels quick, right? Like on the regular, but when we sit down to record,
yeah,
it feels like, gosh, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of like, aw, that's kind of cute.
Because we both have such busy lives.
No, for real though,
and it's
right?
like, oh, like 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I was, at Bonnaroo.
Yeah,
and
Bonnaroo,
then I was out of town, San Diego.
Yeah.
Last weekend, and I was like, oh, I gotta record the pod this week. And I was like, what days am I? I was like, oh, okay.
This season always is like, because of festivals, because of conventions, it's like nonstop, one way or another.
And the fact that we can just find like 2 hours.
I know.
Post work.
I know, right? Oh my gosh,
this.
I love it. It's great. No, yeah. So speaking of Miles Morales, yeah, that episode is streaming, and that was, again, like we've done a few of these on the road, so to speak, right? Like, like I know for sure. Like Winter Soldier happened while I was away, and like Moon Knight might have been while we were both away. Like it's interesting to look back on.
Oh, I mean, when we have to do it, I think double because I flew to the Philippines.
Yeah, that was the Green Goblin one, right?
Yeah.
And Gwen Stacy, which is kind of wild too. Yeah, like heavy hitters are hard, but here we are covering stuff, getting ready for next month and Comic-Con.
Oh, that's right.
So it's gonna get heavy. But like speaking of, we might not have as much to discuss when it comes to the mini Marvel because the studios are not attending.
Because last year we had a strictly like Comic-Con,
an entire episode, mini Marvel dedicated to it. So I don't know, maybe I'm not sure, because Marvel all the studios will still be present. It's just that they're not presenting. Whether or not that'll change in the next 3 weeks, I mean
I passed due to my office and the writer's strike is still happening.
Still very much happening, yeah. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but all for a good reason. So I guess with that, we can start with our top chat and our news. So yeah, it was announced this week that our king, Chadwick Boseman, will be receiving a posthumous star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Is that how you pronounce
Yeah.
Posthumous?
Yeah.
Oh.
What did you think?
I'm always thinking posthumous.
I mean, sure, in some universe, I'm sure you can say that. I mean, I've always heard posthumous, yeah.
Holy crap.
It's like that interview with Shia LaBeouf. And what did he mispronounce? He pronounced something really strange. And everyone was like, what? It could be, I mean, yeah, posthumous.
That's how it's, wow.
Posthumous, yeah.
Okay.
So he'll be receiving it as part of the class of 2024 lineup, which is pretty awesome. I don't know. I thought that I saw some other names pop up, but I can't recall at the moment.
Oh, there was another one that I saw, but I forget.
Oh, it's oh my gosh. from Shang-Chi. And,
oh my God, yes, Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh is getting one. Yeah, Michelle Yeoh as well. So that's pretty awesome. Congrats to them. I'm sure I'll probably find those stars when they're officially out. I wonder what they're going to do for Chadwick's. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow, as of this recording, well, actually, it'll be active as of this episode drops. But Rogers the musical will officially be on stage at Disney California Adventure. So for a limited time, it does not have an end date. You can go see the same, quote unquote, same musical that was featured in the Hawkeye series of Rogers on Broadway.
30 minutes of just
spectacle.
Well, I wonder where they go, because
Stripes.
obviously in the show it was just showcasing the New York battle.
Right. So I'm curious, and that was for one song, right?
One song.
Like, can you imagine what they're going to do for 30 solid minutes? Like, I haven't watched any of the promos because that's what I do, right? I just don't want, I want to absorb it myself. So I haven't looked at anything, but from what I've seen, like very quickly in passing,
Oh, really?
it looks exactly like the one in Hawkeye. So I don't know if there's going to be a story integrated or it's just going to be like 5 songs.
Just 30 minutes
the
of I
entire-
can do this all day.
The entire Avengers run, like they do one for every song. Can you imagine? Then they do an Ultron one, and then
That would
Civil
be
War. Like,
hilarious.
dude, I'm down. I can't wait.
Let me
so
know.
so yeah. So I will have seen it by the time that this episode drops. But stay tuned on Instagram and such, because I'm sure I'm going to cover each and every part of that. There's a special like ticket. It's free if you go into the park, but there's a special ticket that you can upgrade and get like a popcorn tub with red, white, and blue popcorn and a lanyard and special seating. I'm gonna do it.
They're going the whole
Yeah, they're
extra
doing
mile.
it. They're gonna milk me
love
for
it.
everything. Yeah, it's great. Can't wait. And then beyond that, Secret Invasion is officially streaming on Disney Plus. So as of this recording, we are 2 episodes deep into the 6-episode series, which is crazy. Jeff just told me that before we started recording. So we're about halfway through, which
Pretty
is
much. Pretty close.
wild, because this is where, like you called it, this is the part where things start to go haywire.
Yeah.
Like really crazy. Like we've already seen some crazy stuff that we will be discussing later in this episode, but
Oh yeah. The
Like, I
first
feel like-
episode, real quick. The first episode, after I watched it, I texted Dai. I was just like, "Yo!" That was it. That's all I said.
that's funny because like you watched it at midnight or something,
I watched
right?
it like late. 'Cause I
Yeah.
didn't realize. I was like, oh, it's midnight.
woke
And I was
up.
like, I can't go to sleep without watching it.
I woke up to that yo on my
I texted her like
screen.
at 3 a.m. by the way. Like,
It was so funny, and I was like, "Oh right," but it was great because it was my reminder. I was like, "Oh, I gotta watch it first before I look at my phone," which I did. But yeah, hard same. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that shortly.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that said, we're not experts. We don't claim to be. We're just a couple of nerds nerding out. And full disclosure, this episode will contain all and every single detailed spoiler from Secret Invasion. So proceed with caution. And of course, irrelevant as he is, this episode is all about Nick Fury,
Nick Fury,
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So yeah, let's get down to it. Created by Smilin' Stan Lee and Jack King Kirby. Nick's first appearance was Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos.
Wow.
Yeah, number 1, cover dated May 1963.
Whoa.
And so it's described as a quote-unquote World War II combat series featuring inking by Dick Ayers and lettering by Art Simek. And so do you want to guess the cover price? I also want you to read this cover dialogue because it's so funny. You can just hear the wartimey like tune to it. Like, it has like a certain cadence that's very like, you can just hear the 1920s, 30s in it. But do you want to give
the dialogue?
Yeah, but do you want to give a shot at the cover price first?
1963.
Yeah. So think X-Men. X-Men is the same year.
I want to go a young 10.
You're so close. You're so close.
Every time.
It is a solid 12.
Oh my gosh! I thought they only went in increments of 5.
No, it was like 5, 12, 25, 50, 75, 120, or 99, 125 and up.
There's not even a 12-cent coin.
I know. You'd have to have a dime and two, like,
a penny.
What the
Who
heck?
carries pennies?
Well, 1963.
Yeah.
That's a popcorn in a water cup or something.
That's a house in the 1960s.
Yeah, also that. Jeez, Louisa. That's rent, right? Like, holy.
It's a full college education.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's a dozen eggs. So yeah, if you want, you can just read this main bubble if you want, which
This
is
one?
yeah,
The white one?
yeah, or this one.
Oh, which one's better?
Either whatever is fine.
Think you've read war stories before? Mister, wait till you see what's in store for you here. It's only the greatest. That's my best 1950s New York.
You sound like Spider-Ham. Yeah, it's so funny because like every single page, like even at the bottom, 7 against the Nazis, another big one from the talented team that brings you the famous Fantastic Four.
Like J. Jonah Jameson.
I know. I think that's my only male voice. It's like Jonah Jameson. Yeah, it's so funny. And so, of course, on the cover are 7 men adorned in army gear, and that with the character with the bubble is indeed Sergeant Fury.
Oh, wow.
The original Sergeant Fury. And so we're gonna get into that whole thing shortly, but for this particular comic book. Oh boy, on the short boxed CGC. So this was admittedly, this was quite shocking to me because for a #1 book featuring a character of this caliber from 1963, I expected it to be worth a lot more than it is. Because, like we were talking before about Miles Morales even, he's almost in 10,000s, like naturally.
Yeah.
But good old Nick here, CGC 8.0 for this issue goes for about 3,500 on Shirtbox, while a 7.0 goes for 6,500 on eBay. So clearly there's some miscommunication there for the eBay folks. They think they're going to get that money. Whereas for the lowest versions I found, a CGC 0.5 on Shortbox was going for $525. Whereas on eBay, a 1.5 was going for $650. So more or less, you could probably get this book at high for about $3,000, at low $600. Which is like interesting, like for Nick Fury of all characters.
I mean, if you paid 12 cents for it,
yeah,
it's a steal.
It's a steal. And then, of course, a loose copy. I'd say it goes for about $400, give or take. So yeah, what was your first exposure to this character?
2008.
Oh, really? With Iron Man?
Post-credit scene, yeah.
Wow, no way.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Yeah, for me, it's actually something we're going to talk about later in the show. But it was a film.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As well as, of course, the trading cards, which I do have one here. But instead of reading the trading cards, so at least I wanted to show you this first, is that definitely not the Nick Fury you might be familiar with.
Jeez.
So he's a Caucasian male with an eye patch and salt and pepper hair, kind of
looking like, yeah.
Super spy.
Yeah.
And so instead of reading the back of the card, I got this cute little mini book.
Oh my gosh.
It's the cutest thing. And it's got easily like 300 pages or so. And it's just a bunch of hero profiles. And so I picked this up at the Marvel exhibition at the Discovery Science Center in Charlotte.
Shoot. Okay.
So they have a temporary exhibition on view now. I made a reel of the original issues they have there. They only had 3 or 4, so that was kind of interesting. But the fact that they had a Marvel Comics 1 on display was like, whoa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But funny enough, when I first got the book and I opened the book just to whatever natural page it was, it opened to Nick Fury.
Of course.
And I was like, whoa, that's Kismet. So anyway, it has the full profile as it would on the card. And so it shows the same Nick Fury with the patch and everything. And it says, for his description, as leader of the elite Howling Commandos, Nick Fury's World War II exploits helped to route the access. Route the access. Since then, the infinity formula in Fury's veins has fueled his vim and vigor in the decades since, as first an agent and later leader of the world-protecting SHIELD. He is currently in exile as the Unseen on the moon.
Whoa.
So that's a lot to unpack.
That last part, it's like, wait. It's kind of like what happened to him recently.
Kind of, right? Yeah, a little bit. He's up in space. And so we talked a little bit about that in our Winter Soldier episode.
Yeah.
Because of the Watcher stuff, and also in our What If episode. So we're not going to get too deep into that. It's really dense, like, storytelling. But
all these characters are dense, man.
It's so true.
I swear.
It's probably why we haven't covered him until now. But so yeah, that said, let's dive into Colonel Nicholas Joseph Nick Fury Sr. Senior. So, introduced as a man's man.
Of course.
Fury came equipped with his Howling Commandos, and it's the same team as our dear old Cap's crew. So it's the same team.
Okay.
So this is the same Howling Commandos. It's not like a replica. It's the original team that they all like kind of rolled with. And so it all takes place during World War II. And so the Howling Commandos themselves were known as, quote unquote, a specially trained band of soldiers who undertook some of the most dangerous missions of the war. And the team actually included 6 individuals aside Fury. Robert Rebel Ralston. You see, the people at Marvel really love alliteration.
I was just gonna. Oh my god! Yeah, they do.
Yeah, Jonathan Jr. Juniper, Gabriel Jones, Izzy Cohen, Dino Manelli. I want to say Dino, but it's Dino.
Okay.
And then, last but not least, Corporal Dum Dum Duggan.
Oh yeah.
And that's a name that we're very familiar with all around.
That's so funny.
And right off the top, we had a listener question from Instagram. Ariel Tima. I need to know, in the comics, is the real reason for the eye patch the same as in Captain Marvel?
That's a hot take.
Which is very interesting because people, yeah. I mean, Jeff, you've seen this like time and again. Like everyone's like,
I don't know why people always. I don't know why people have to take it so serious. Like if it's a joke,
yeah,
it's a joke.
They got so angry that it was because of a flirkin in Captain Marvel. And so in actuality, in the comics, it wasn't until issue 27 of the original title. It also even featured on the cover itself. It says like the origin of Fury's eye patch. And so it's a flashback issue. And so Fury and the Howling Commandos are, you know, doing what they do in every frickin' issue, which is combating against the Nazis. And actually, Hitler's actually in this one too. It's kind of weird and funny. But it's exactly as heroic as people intended it to be in the MCU, right? Like they were just like, oh man, what if it was like Wolverine and like they were in the trenches of World War II and all that stuff, but it didn't happen in the MCU that way. But in the comics, it's not too far from the truth. Like, you know, they're in combat and the Nazis throw a grenade, and much like Captain America in the first film where he jumped on it, like Fury grabbed it, threw it, and the shrapnel got him.
Yeah.
So it's not as anecdotal, but that's how it happened. And it is a war, what would you call it? A war injury. So yeah, he lost his eye in the process, or at least his sight. And so throughout his comic book lifetime, Fury, he's been part of multiple intelligence agencies, including, but not limited to, SHIELD, the CIA, the OSS, the U.S. Army, and the MI5. And he might have been responsible for recruiting a man into the CIA by the name of Richard Parker. So he knew Peter Parker's father.
Oh.
Yeah. So Peter Parker's father in the comic books, and kind of like briefly mentioned in Amazing Spider-Man. You didn't watch that one, I don't think. Oh, is it Amazing Spider-Man 1?
Okay.
Amazing Spider-Man 1, they kind of went into that deep dive of his father being an agent. So in the comics, Nick Fury is actually responsible for pulling him into the system. as he did with many others that we might talk about today. And so beyond all this, the character has a complex backstory, of course, that unfolded near the tail end of his modern day history, where, like in the book mentions, he was known as the Unseen, and then the Man on the Wall. And so, yeah, we talked about it a bit in the Bucky Barnes and What If episodes. Definitely go back and listen to that if you want to hear more about that whole debacle. But that's more or less what happened to Nick Fury Sr. But besides that, I mean, he's everything that we would imagine him to be, right? Super spy, super cool, like secret ops, and has all those,
everything.
Yeah, constantly, and he's very much like how even Sam Jackson depicts his version on screen.
3 steps ahead.
Exactly. That's right. That's basically the summary. So
always.
So that's. I wish everybody could see you like right now, the way that you're saying it. Like, always. He's like nodding his head very coolly. Yeah, and also for more on S.H.I.E.L.D., we actually covered quite a bit in our Peggy Carter episode. So go back to episode 22 for that one. But yeah, Colonel Nicholas Joseph Nick Fury in the MCU, portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson, first seen as in Geoffrey's first exposure, 2008's Iron Man, and last seen in Secret Invasion, which officially marks 15 years of his tenure in that character role.
Ooh.
15 years.
Is there like this has to be recorded somewhere. Is there a record for longest running tenure of someone in a character? I just thought of that. It's probably
I'm
Harrison Ford.
Maybe. As which one? Han Solo or Indiana? Yeah, Indy, for sure.
Indy started in 80?
I don't know. Are you going to look it up now? But that's a long one.
That's what I'm saying.
For sure.
It's a long one.
Yeah. He might have like an
you see
Guinness,
that one
World
sidetrack?
Record.
Did you see that one interview with I think it was Jimmy Fallon and Samuel L. Jackson, where there's like did you know that you're number 2 on the highest grossing actor?
Oh.
And he was like, what? Who's number 1? And he was like, Harrison Ford. And then he's like, damn it. He got 3 franchises.
Oh my God. That's fun. Well, that's funny, huh? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I think that, with Samuel L. Jackson playing Fury, it's like, and then obviously Indy, and then Harrison's coming back as Indy soon.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
I think the end of this month,
these
right?
These guys are just, they don't stop.
Yeah.
They do not.
It's wild.
Stop.
They know how to play the game, man.
15 years is a long time to be playing a role.
100%.
And it's not like he even got... It's not even that he has his own movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time where he's the...
That's the wildest.
Secret Invasion is the first one where he's the staple hero.
And he's the executive producer.
I saw that.
I was like, ooh, they're all getting like...
Go ahead.
Yeah,
make double the money.
Yeah, seriously. Holy smokes. So we're clearly not going to go into full length as far as Fury's background goes, especially in the MCU. But yeah, let's tackle some of the essentials. So... this is interesting. So I started to put things together, right? It was the Charlie Day meme all over again. So with Secret Invasion, we've now discovered that Fury was 40 years old when he, quote unquote, celebrated his midlife crisis by forming the Avengers.
Yeah.
So think back to 2012, like, I guess like formed versus like conceptualized, because conceptualized would be 95 where Captain Marvel happened.
Yes.
So he's 40 years as of 2012. And so from there, I started to go back, thinking about how Desmati was like, I need a timeline of like stuff. And I was like, okay, so I thought about it and I was like, okay, his connection to the Avengers stemmed even further than 2000s. So if you start with Captain Marvel in 1995, that suggests Fury was around 30 years old.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, 33-ish. And then... But you go even further back because he even clarified in Secret Invasion he joined S.H.I.E.L.D. in 1989. So he met Carol in 1995. Then he began recruiting Skrull in 1997.
Yes.
Formed the Avengers, and then it jumps. So we don't know what he's doing all this time until he forms the Avengers in 2012, quote unquote, encounters the blip in 2018, returns from the blip in 2023, and Secret Invasion supposedly takes place in November of 2026.
Huh. So he's pushing maybe 60.
Yeah. He's up there.
In the MCU.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
How old is he in real life? Do you know how
He's
old?
70.
Oh, so he's still playing younger.
I think.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Sam Jackson. Age. Yeah, he's 74 years old, man.
Oh my gosh.
Still looking good. He's still doing good.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, right? I can't imagine my mother doing like what he does. Holy smokes.
My dad's the same age.
That's wild, right? So imagine your dad.
Playing playing Nick Fury?
Nick Fury.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, Nick Fury. Yeah, no, that's like wild, right? So yeah, he's skewing a little younger in real on screen. But yeah, so pre-blip, Fury's mission was to protect Earth by collaborating with the superpowered, earthly and beyond. And then post-blip, so it appears like he's just entrusting these subdivisions to take care of the job he used to do with Sword and Saber doing their thing across the globe while he's like, up in space, but not in space and back in Earth and doing all this stuff. And so did you want to give a stab at what the acronyms Sword and Saber mean? Do you remember?
Sword, I just know D stands for division.
Yeah, that's the easy way of doing
and
it.
Strategic.
Right?
The S's.
Strategic. Yeah, which is also something that was like more recently formulated too.
Because we don't know much about Saber at all. Mm-mm. Sword only from WandaVision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So, because this isn't a pop quiz, thankfully. But, so just as a refresher, S.H.I.E.L.D. originally meant Supreme Headquarters International Espionage Law Enforcement Division.
Uh-huh.
And now, at least per the MCU and probably in the comics, they changed it to Strategic Hazard Intervention Espionage Logistics Directorate.
Oh.
Directorate. So maybe the division is MCU, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Since Strategic Homeland.
That's what I thought it was.
Okay, so this is just comic book version. So that's just that.
Strategic Homeland, yeah.
Yeah, intervention, enforcement.
Yes.
Yes. So SWORD means Sentient Worlds Observation and Response Department. I think they changed it to division as well for the MCU. And so yeah, you're right. Saber, nobody knows what it means yet. Nobody knows what it means.
The Marvels, we will.
Yeah, and I'm sure with Marvels, it'll come around. But we do have a pop quiz for you, which I think you suspected, sort of, even in the last episode. But of Fury's 13 appearances.
Okay, you're not going to ask me how many appearances.
No. We're not going to go there. Of his 13 appearances, how many were post-credit scenes?
Oh, okay. I was thinking about this. I was kind of thinking about this because I was like,
"This is right up your alley."
How many appearances does Nick Fury make? And I was like, oh well, he was a post-credit in this one.
You're so
because
funny.
technically Iron Man is the post-credit one.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna sip my peppermint tea while you think about this. Go on.
Oh, that's a good one. Damn, I didn't get past that one.
Yeah. So how many? And if you would like to answer, what were they?
One's Iron Man.
Yep.
And then one is. Oh, was that at the end of that, or is that the end of Captain Marvel? I mean, no, he was in Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. But he was in Far From Home too. Mm-hmm. Which is insane, because then what? Is this a trick question? Because then the one where he's on the spaceship, he's like, all right, let's get back to work, everybody. Mm-hmm. He's on a spaceship. Mm-hmm. Is that a post-credits to Far From Home? Or Captain Marvel?
Well, Captain Marvel wouldn't count because he's in Captain Marvel.
But he's also in Far From Home also.
Yes.
So that doesn't count.
It does. That is one of them.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So you have 2 of 4.
4?
I just gave you the... Okay, you're halfway there.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's tough with a character like this because he pops in the way he does,
that's
right?
the beauty of his character,
Yeah,
though.
I wouldn't be able to.
Is it pre-Infinity War or post-Infinity War? I don't remember seeing him in anything Phase 4. I could be wrong. No, he wasn't in that show. Movies? He's not in any Black Panthers.
I will say they're all movies.
They're all movies?
Mm-hmm.
Holy lordy, Michael Jordy. He's not in... Oh, wait, is he in Civil War? He's not in the movie. Is he? No. Is he, what were the post-credit scenes for Civil? Oh, my gosh. Now they're averaging like 2 post-credit scenes a movie.
I know,
can't
that's the thing. Yeah.
God, I don't remember the Civil War. Not in Thor, no. Ragnarok. I can't get these two. And it's going to beat me up.
You think?
I can't put a number on it. I can't remember every single post-credit scene. No. I am lost.
So actually, you weren't too far off in all of them. So the first one was Iron Man. As we know, he comes up from who are you? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Thor, he comes out in Thor, and he shows the very first one, and he shows Eric Selvig the Tesseract. Yes. And then he appears in Avengers of Infinity War at the post-credit scene as the snap is happening.
Oh my gosh.
That's the big one. That's the mother.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the one that you were confusing for Captain Marvel, which is the Spider-Man Far From Home one, where he's on Saber.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right. Yeah, like you said. So those are the 4, which is wild because like if you really do think about it, I mean, it's so easy to get it. He pops up
so randomly.
So randomly. You could never just like nail down like, okay, was that a post-credit scene or was it an actual scene?
Yeah.
So, but you did very well. I mean, I would honestly give it to you because you named all the movies. Like, just weren't sure.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so well done. And so we're actually gonna change it up a little bit as far as the role of the show goes. So I moved aesthetic all the way up here.
Oh.
Because, like I said at the top, we had a very Caucasian Nick Fury when this all started. So, if nothing more, know that when it comes to the aesthetic, Nick Fury is all about the eye patch, the trench coat, tactical gear, sleek black attire, the classic spy look. Though his original outfits in the comics gravitated to more like army-like assemblage, like you see on the trading card. So he wore this like sort of navy. You can't really tell if it was actually navy or it's just the shadowing coloring that they did, and then white pockets and accessories. Hip pouches, boots, right down to the ever-present cigar or cigarette jutting from his lips. So, like, this is like a fun fact interlude that I wanted to talk about very quickly because, like, I promise you, even in this picture on our doc, he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And so back in the day, it was kind of like the Captain Stacy. He always had like a cigar thing. Gambit, Logan, Wolverine, yeah. They were always smoking. Every panel you could see them in. And so despite the fact, longtime editor-in-chief at Marvel, Joe Quesada, he banned smoking in any of the non-Max Marvel titled comics, specifically with the non-villains. So it was kind of brought about almost abruptly because I think it was in the 2000s or something that they actually enacted this whole thing because, quote unquote, Quesada said, heroes shouldn't smoke. Villains are stupid. They're allowed to. And so this all stemmed from Quesada's own, family loss to tobacco. So his family, the men in his family were notorious for smoking. And so his grandfather actually died of related health issues, and his own father experienced a collapsed lung from smoking.
Oh my gosh.
So after those 2 incidents, he was like, nope, no more. And so he banned, quote unquote, smoking from Heroes, at least.
Whoa.
And so that's that. From that point on, you just don't see them smoking ever. Whereas before it was kind of like, the 50s and like Mad Men, where just you couldn't see a scene without somebody lighting up. And so if you scroll further down, and I'll post these on social as well, there are a couple of comparisons between the MCU and the comic book versions, both of Nick Fury Sr., as well as the modern day iteration that we see so often that is based off of Sam Jackson. He's pretty accurate because Nick Fury, the Ultimate version, was based off of off of Nick Fury, off of Sam Jackson.
That's crazy.
So the likeness is there because it's actually Sam Jackson. It was Sam Jackson. So shout out to this account that I found called Accurate MCU. They do all these awesome comparisons between the films and the comics, like a side by side. I'm not sure if he actually draws them himself or not, but they're pretty fantastic. So if you want to see more of those, definitely check him out on Instagram or Facebook. And then there is, of course, a huge glaring difference between the MCU and the comic book version in that Nick Fury was originally a white man. So let's talk about how this came to be. And so, of course, again, I moved the topics around a little bit, as far as the flow of our show goes, and I bumped it up because of the undeniable relevance. But before that, I mean, it's not really a pop quiz, but do you want to take a guess at which came first, the Sam Jackson likeness or his first MCU appearance?
Ooh. I want to say this feels like I feel like the likeness came first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, we're making a movie, so
yeah,
he's already in there.
Yeah.
Let's just see if he'll do it.
Pretty much. So like the anecdotal story is that like Sam Jackson is actually quite the comic book fan. And so he regularly goes to stores and he in LA and he'll buy comics and just get stacks and stacks of books. And so I think it was like one day when they had introduced this whole continuity of the Ultimate Universe. Mm-hmm. They were like, all right, so how are we going to change up Nick Fury? And they thought, how about this? Why don't we make him black? And then the artist was like, okay, how about we make him a badass motherfucker?
Damn. That's true, yeah.
We use Sam Jackson as his face. And so they did. And then one day, like the comic shop was like, hey, you seen this new Ultimates comic? And he was like, huh? And then they showed him. They're like, it looks like you. And he was like, it does look like me. And then like the whole conversation kind of rolled out the way that you just said it. Like he was like, I think he said something like, oh, like he wasn't going to press charges or any like likeness issues, rights, whatever, right? Like he was never going to say anything about it. He was just like, but if you make a movie, like let a brother know.
Yeah, of course.
And so they approached him and were like, hey, we have this idea to bring Nick Fury in. We'd love for you to play him since he's based off of you in this likeness. And he was like, all right. And so he did.
15 years later.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so crazy. So to further embellish on that, I moved other versions and in other media up all the way up here because I wanted to talk about the variants, speaking of the Ultimate Universe. And so 616 versus Ultimate. So canonically, the character is white. And it wasn't until Ultimate Marvel Team Up number 5, cover dated August 2001, that a black Nick Fury was introduced as part of the Ultimates universe. And so, just a reminder, that's Miles Morales' universe, Earth 1610. And so, the character proved to be so popular and popular enough, especially in that likeness, that, with the added value of Sam Jackson's likeness, that they brought the character into full continuity. So the thing with this, like, we discussed this a bit in the Miles Morales episode, when they decided to get rid of the Ultimates universe and then bring people into 616 continuity. They just kind of went like, oh, yeah, they're written into the history. It's all good. They always existed. They were always there. They didn't do that with this Nick Fury. They actually fostered and created an entire origin story for him that made sense and integrated him properly into 616. So this is where it gets a little interesting. So they introduced Nick Fury Jr.
Oh my gosh.
into the fold, right? So he's the son of Nick Fury Sr., aka the White One, this black version that is based off of Sam Jackson.
Oh.
And so what happened was, okay, well, let me backtrack just a tiny bit. So Nick Fury Jr. is the son of Nick Fury Sr. and a CIA agent named Nia Jones. So much like Clint Barton and his family in the MCU, Nick in the comics wanted to ensure Nia's protection by moving her to Atlanta, Georgia, where she was. I don't think she was from Atlanta, but they went to Atlanta, kind of like a, what do you call it, witness protection program sort of situation, and gave her a name change, and so she was then known as Nia Johnson, and then she was pregnant. She got pregnant, and they were having a child, and they named it Marcus Johnson. Okay. And so there's a whole series, a comic book series. It's a short one, where Marcus Johnson. There's this huge long piece of history that follows, including the unfortunate death of his mom at the hands of one of Nick Fury Sr.'s adversaries. Because, he's a man of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
of course.
All this stuff. He's built up all these adversaries in this rogues gallery. And so one of them, named Orion, killed his mother. And so at the very, very end of this entire, sweeping, epic, Marcus not only adopts the lifestyle his parents once tried to hide him from, so he becomes a spy, but then he doubles down and he's like, I'm going to take my dad's name. I'm going to be Nick Fury Jr.
Oh.
So Nick Fury Jr. in the comics that looks like Sam Jackson, his real name is Marcus Johnson.
Oh.
So instead of just plopping the black Nick Fury into 616 and being like, he's black now. It's like, well, no, actually, the white one still exists. He's just an old man now because the Infinity Formula has worn off, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. He's doing the moon thing and he's being the unseen.
Of course.
And then the active Nick Fury is the Sam Jackson version, who is his biological son.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they've written him in. And I was like, yeah, they're not going to do that in the show. I was like, that's a bit complex. So as far as the MCU is concerned, he is the only, and I've never heard him refer to himself as senior either.
Yeah.
Or junior for that matter. He just is Nick Fury.
Nicholas J. Fury.
So yeah, this all happened as of 2012. So it's fairly recent as far as the character history goes. And so this then calls back to what we're discussing next very quickly, which is probably my first exposure to the character, which was a 1998 made-for-TV movie called Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., starring David Hasselhoff.
Oh my God.
As Nick Fury, with Lisa Rinna as Contessa Valentina Val Allegra de Fontaine, and Sandra Hess as Andrea von Strucker, a.k.a. Viper.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is the link I sent you, last week or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just David Hasselhoff's big, head.
Yeah.
That was the full movie.
That's...
And so I rewatched it, and I was like, oh my God, it's like, it actually feels more like a 1993 movie than a 98. I feel like at 98 it would have had a little bit more millennial vibe, but it didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very old.
Yeah. It's imagine Baywatch, but Nick Fury.
That's hilarious.
It's a lot of that, but it was so good. It was so bad. It was good in a weird way because there were a lot of callbacks, and there are a lot of things that, as a modern day fan, you might watch and be like, Steve Rogers, like, I got that reference. You would understand. And there are characters. Yeah, there are characters like Alexander Pierce is in it, but he's playing like the character that he more or less is in the comics at one point. You know what I mean? Like he's like an underling or something. But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's about an hour and 30 minutes long.
That's crazy.
Full on movie, and they left it ended for like a potential sequel. It never happened, but that was definitely my first exposure. It's Zardu Hasselfrau. Depending,
he really just took over that decade, man. That's
dude, he's been in the Marvel game longer than most of them, which is kind of funny, right?
Oh, that is funny, actually.
Yeah. And so we got a listener comment on Instagram. So this comes from Super Fanboy Guy, who Geoffrey asked me to ask you or tell you this joke. This is a joke for you, Jeff.
Okay.
What did Nick Fury say when he returned to Earth?
It's me, motherfucker.
I mean, fair. He said, I'm back. Oh,
okay.
good.
That was good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Thanks, Super Fanboy Guy.
On a Schwarzenegger type beat.
Yeah. So, powers and paraphernalia. And so, clearly, or maybe not so clearly, Nick Fury does not have any powers. He's just all of these things that I'm about to mention, which are, but not limited to, master in espionage and intelligence gathering, skilled military strategist, skilled in special operations, armed and unarmed combat, martial artist, longevity via infinity formula. So that's all he has. And so the only super thing about this dude is the infinity formula.
I was going to say the formula then.
So we've talked about this in a lot of episodes, like Black Widow, Captain America, Winter Soldier. And so it's similar to the super soldier formula, but not quite as
like
concentrated.
Okay.
Maybe not as like, what's the word?
Like it's not making him look like.
Yeah, like it's not like making him what he could have been. Like it's just ensuring that let me read it here. So it's also known as the forever compound. And so basically it's a life prolonging serum that does not prevent the mind or body of the person injected from decaying. So Nick Fury could look like he's 30, but he's feeling like a 90-year-old is basically what's happening.
Okay.
So yeah, this is, in the comics, he first got the serum in France during World War II because he suffered some really bad injuries. And so rather than dying, they were like, oh, let's give him the infinity formula. And then so it healed him a bit. It doesn't make him immortal. It doesn't make him regenerate or anything, but it just made him better. And it also just kind of broadened his lifespan a bit. So
okay.
So in the comics, Nick Fury Sr. got the injection, and by proxy, because also it's the easy thing to do, his son got it because biological at that point.
Yes.
It's in his DNA at this rate.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a silly one. This is another pop quiz. But I promise it's a multiple choice.
Great, man.
I promise it's okay. So now that we've discussed the all things aesthetic about Fury, do you want to take a stab at what percentage of vision loss he has in his left eye? From these multiple choices. Is it 95%, 75%, 50%, or 25%?
Oh, like how much he can't see out of that eye?
Correct.
So it only he might have 25% vision?
Yeah.
I feel like it's high.
Vision loss.
Yeah.
So how much has he lost?
Oh, like he's lost 25%?
Yes.
He's lost
yes.
half of that vision?
Yes. 95, 75, 50,
I personally think
25.
it's... Ooh, that's tough. I feel like it's not completely gone.
Yeah.
But I feel like 50-50 is a cop out of an answer.
I think so too.
But 75? But it's also enough for him to be wearing an eye patch, right?
Right.
So it can't be 25. Maybe can't be 50. But 95? That's up there. I say 75.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
That is incorrect.
Ah!
So canonically, as well as presumably MCU, he has lost 95% of his vision in the left eye, which in the MCU could be fixed, I'm sure, because, technology, et cetera, maybe they did something.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, presumably it's 95% loss, which is kind of wild.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, he's basically blind in that eye. So friends, family, friends, and affiliations. So I didn't want to get too crazy on this one, especially because he's one of those characters, right, that has just a broad spectrum of all of these things. And so just very quickly, Jack, Jacob, and Don Fury. So those are his father, brother, and sister in that order, along with an unnamed mother. And so you got to remember, once again, Nick Fury Sr. at least hails from pre-World War II times.
Yes.
So he's quite an aged character. So his father, Jack, served in the army as well. And the family endured the Depression era of New York City. And so the children themselves, they were orphaned eventually because the mother passed away, unknown circumstances, and the father passed away, I believe, after he came back from the war for some reason. And so they grew up in Hell's Kitchen, raised by their stepmother. And so they do expand on Fury's past quite a bit. He had like a best friend and on all these, like backstories, but I didn't want to get too much into those, but it goes without saying that, Fury's got a direct line, right, to all of the Earth's mightiest heroes. And so, and in the MCU, so not only in the comics, but also in the MCU. So, the Avengers for S.H.I.E.L.D. and its subdivisions and all of them, they're all part of his network. So we just want to keep it nice and tight and just cover a few of the people who coincidentally are actually all the women. I could have put Rhodey in here. I feel like, we can talk about Rhodey a little bit.
Besties.
Rhodey's really funny though, right? Like this is the thing, and this is obviously more skewing towards the MCU talk, but like considering where James Rhodes has been in the last like 6 things that he's ever been in, right? Yeah. It's interesting where he's being placed.
Right now in the MCU.
Yeah. Like he's in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's in Secret Invasion. He's been on all these very important like key points which could formulate this next phase, right? And he's eventually going to get Armor Wars.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of like, And so
Don Cheadle's like, I'm earning this check, baby. No one's stopping me from getting this Marvel check.
And he deserves it. He is a king. I love Don Cheadle. Oh my goodness. Love. But yeah, it's interesting. And so yeah, I've said this to a few people. When it comes to Secret Invasion especially, I feel like I have a 50% bet that he could be a Skrull. And that, the weird theory that
but
perhaps
it'll be like, well, then where's the real one?
He might be dead.
No!
You like death, Jeff.
I gotta see it first.
Yeah, if it didn't happen on screen, it ain't for real,
exactly.
Right?
I gotta see it first.
Well, we don't know. I don't know. Like I said, Civil War. He might have died in Civil War, like getting shot out of the sky from Vision.
When's the last time we saw him? And obviously he's like he's a colonel and stuff, but like in action.
In action? See?
Endgame, right?
Endgame.
That's it?
Yo, that's right. Yeah, Endgame.
In action.
With
the suit.
Yeah. See? That's
he's
also...
a Skrull!
It's also budgeting, but...
Yeah, it's also true.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just very interesting. And so anyway, I didn't put Rhodey on here because a lot of these characters, especially when it comes to the MCU versions, they don't intermingle nearly as much in the comics. They're all passing ships. And so I just wanted to point out a couple. One of which is Carol Danvers, of course. And so they've crossed paths many times. She was actually his personal assistant at one point in the comic books.
Wow.
And then she also sat as active director of S.H.I.E.L.D. while he was like, what was he? I think he was displaced somewhere. And yeah, so they've had their own, respective teams. They've gone against each other. They've worked together, the whole shebang, but nothing quite like in the films, which of course Carol Danvers, portrayed by Brie Larson, first seen in 2019's Captain Marvel, and last seen in a few things, but most notably 2022's Ms. Marvel series.
Woo!
And so she first encounter. Oh, they had their first encounter because of the Skrulls.
The Kree Skrull War.
This Kree Skrull War. Exactly. I can't even say it. That's a tongue twister. Yeah, Kree Skrull.
Skrull
Squirrel Girl.
Kree
Skrull. See, I can't do it.
Kree
Skrull War. There you go. And so Fury was tracking anomalies in his earlier years with S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's how he even found Carol. So Carol was almost the catalyst for him even understanding and being involved with Skrulls, because because Coulson was the first person that was a Skrull in his proximity.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so
Captain Marvel was so good. Y'all didn't stop hating on that movie.
I don't hate all of it. I just don't like all the parts that don't necessarily have Nick Fury in them. He was my favorite part of the movie, to be honest. He really was. I don't know. But anyway. But yeah, so they clearly had a tight-knit connection that point on. And that the beeper thing, like all of that. And so I'm curious if that's going to be revived in any way, if she's going to come back into the fray, especially with Secret Invasion. Because, she jokes that, what was it? Other galaxies, other planets don't have you guys, right? But like this planet actually needs her this time.
But yeah, the Skrulls are back, baby.
Yeah, and then of course her, quote unquote politics that come into it because she is Kree.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on, and a lot I think we haven't yet seen. But of course, more with the Marvels later this year. We'll see. And so I mentioned Sharon Carter. I don't really know why. I kind of put her in here. Well, I wasn't going to, but Sharon and the original Fury had more interaction than the modern Junior in the comic books. But of course, in the MCU, Sharon Carter, portrayed by Emily Van Camp, first seen in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, last seen in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Most of their interaction, most of Fury and Sharon's interaction was in the Winter Soldier film, when she was posing as Kate to watch over Steve Rogers. And so I feel like that's the only time they've actually interacted, right? Because she hasn't been in that much anyway. And even then, they didn't have that many scenes together.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. They didn't do as much as you would suspect, but they've had more screen time together than a lot of people. Though, of course, notably, I didn't include Natasha Romanoff in here, but we do talk about them a little bit in her episode.
Yeah.
But, the one we couldn't pass up, above all, despite all the connections he has had with the Avengers again, Maria Hill.
Oh, yeah.
So, shockingly enough, there's not too much to note here as far as the comic book is concerned, aside the expected, interminglings thanks to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra.
Yeah.
But Maria in the comics interacted with both Nick Fury Sr. and Jr. versions of the character, and actually more so with Jr. When she became director of S.H.I.E.L.D. after Daisy Johnson.
Oh my gosh.
Nick was her right-hand man. So it was kind of like flip-flopped a little bit. Whereas in the MCU, of course, Maria Hill, portrayed by Colby Smulders, first seen in 2012's The Avengers, last seen in Secret Invasion just over 10 years after her first appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I'm waiting to say it.
She's legit been there with and for Fury since the second she stepped on screen. She is basically his work wife.
Yep.
She was portrayed by Talos's wife Soren in the post-credit scene from Spider-Man Far From Home. And then died sometime. Soren died sometime after the blip, but she Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. Say
she's dead.
She's
dead in the first episode of Secret Invasion.
That's so crazy.
Everyone can suck it.
Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Like, legitimately, I was like not expecting it.
Dude, that's why I texted you that. I was like
when I have only watched it once, right? But
that's all you need to.
That particular scene, though, I was like, holy smokes!
That ending scene was pretty. I was like, oh, they're screwed. Like, oh, this guy's smart.
100%.
Graphic smart. Yeah. Fury has lost it.
Yeah, like when you hear the shot, and then she like
buckles.
She buckled. I was like, oh no. And like whatever that is, whatever that shot is,
gut shot.
Yeah, the gut shot.
Yeah.
And then like the overhead shot, like when they pulled him away from her, I was like, I told Jeff, I started crying, and I was sitting exactly where you were, and I was like, man, like that? It's like that? You're gonna just what?
Was it you that told me, or maybe saw it on Twitter?
What?
Her last image of before dying was Fury shooting her.
Yeah, because she does it like, and then her last words,
like,
it was you. Like, oh my God,
and
that's awful.
And then Nick didn't even have time to process it.
Nothing, because the bombing. It's
gotta go.
Scary, yeah.
I was just kind of chilling watching it, and then like I was like okay. And then I was like, and then the shot happens, and I was like, I got up, and I was like,
oh man,
I was like, there's no way it ends here, right? There's no way it ends here.
They pulled the Spider-Verse on
and
you.
then I was like, you mother, like, I was like, she's not dead, right?
Right.
I immediately went to Twitter.
Well, that's the second question I got. Yeah, that's the question that I got too. Everyone was like, yo, you watch Secret Invasion yet? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, she's not dead. I was like, oh, she's dead.
She's dead.
I was like, she's dead. That's definitely casualty.
Kobe Smulders acted her ass off.
Dude, she's so good.
I was like, oh, she's dead. And she's acting her ass off like that.
She's
I was like 100%.
Always been good. But yeah, it's very much like Gravik said in the second episode. He's like, what did he say?
Oh, he was like,
yeah,
I could have killed him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what did he say? It's like that's the easy. Like,
that's the easy.
I don't want to give him what he wants.
Yeah.
I wanted to take away whatever he said.
What he loves.
What he loves. Yeah. And so that was like, you got. We're not going to get into Gravik too much, but you really get a sense of the character that he is.
Might have to be someone we cover.
Honestly,
after this
yeah,
show.
yeah. Honestly, but yeah. So poor old Maria.
I am sad.
But she legitimately brought a character to the table that was like, I wouldn't say insignificant in the comics. She's definitely got a smaller role when it comes to the comic books. She's had some points and highlights in her comic tenure.
Yes.
But man, she made her an incredible character on screen. Like she was always on point, always a strong character, always like dependable. You knew that if Hill was on screen, something was happening. Like something important was, like some information was being conveyed.
Yes.
Whatever. And so to like see her finally go, like I think I said this to you. I was like, it's final when they're rolling out a casket and her mom is there. I was like, oh, she's really gone now.
And then, because I was like thinking too, like, because usually when you kill people off, you give them something like that they die for something, right?
Right.
And she didn't really. Yeah. Like, she was doing she was, fighting for something, but it happened so sudden, and you don't really expect someone dying the first episode of a series. Mm-hmm. And then it says special guest star Kobe Smulders. Oh, she's dead.
She's dead. Yeah.
And then it kind of comes together in the second episode when Maria's mom talks to Fury and is like, she was like, that must have sucked. Like why did she die? And then she was like, well, whatever she was doing, make sure her death is not for nothing.
Yes,
and I was
exactly.
like, okay, like there it is.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I appreciated that they actually like showed somebody else, right? Like, who did she have? And it's like, oh, she had a mother and she had family and people who were going to miss her. And that's so sad though, but you get the contextualizing that they presented with just her mom was incredible, because like she even says, she's like, how were you there?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where my daughter died. Like, that's how tightly sealed this entire thing is.
Like what they do, yeah.
Yeah, which is so sad and so crazy. But yeah, so she's Maria Hill's getting them the big send off. Yeah, it's really sad. I'm gonna actually miss her because she was one of those characters I just didn't think they would ever really do that to. But I mean, damn, dude, like they're not holding the punches back. It's like, oh man. And I think that's also what makes it so perfect is that you don't expect that. And it was perfectly executed with her.
Yeah.
Because it's as much as you feel for Fury and losing, yes, what is basically his work wife, she was so integral to so much that it's like, damn, you actually are just like, oh.
Yeah. Like it hurts where you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's a scroll anymore, man. I don't care.
Yeah, Jeff constantly texts me. Okay. I don't know who's a scroll,
like,
man.
I don't care anymore.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna assume everybody's a
Are
scroll.
Are you a scroll?
Dude, I could be.
Have you seen me and a scroll in the same room? Yeah, no. I mean, that's the scary thing about this entire storyline. And we're going to talk about the scrolls just a teeny tiny bit later in the show. But yeah, that's the scariest part about it all is that, like the tagline says, like, who can you trust? All right. So from there, we're going to go on into the love interest section. And so it was really funny. When I first started outlining all of these details, I thought, Fury doesn't have that many. And then as I started to flesh it out, I was like, nope.
Oh, really?
Nope. Yeah. I mean, they're not like big bangs, right? Like not some insane like connections, but you know, we were just introduced to his first on-screen partner in Secret Invasion at the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
So we were introduced to Priscilla Fury, portrayed by Charlene Woodard. And so beyond that character who does not exist, I don't believe exists in the comic books. We're just going to talk about a couple real quick down the line here. Mm-hmm. And so as formerly mentioned in the comic books, Nia Jones, then Johnson, she was the CIA agent that Nick met, fell in love with, married, had a baby with, and now we have Sam Jackson, Nick Jr. And so there's no MCU counterpart for Nia, but there is Lady Pamela Hawley. And so this one was interesting because not unlike how Steve met Peggy, at least in the MCU, Nick met Pam in the comic books during the war, and it was one of those case scenarios, and like, it's a battle zone, there's a young child crying, and she's like, I must help this child, and he's like, I got him, ma'am. He picks up the kid, and you know, later on they meet up again, and there's like, you know, he's like invited to tea for doing a great job, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And then she ends up being the daughter of the man who invited, whatever, they fall in love. But as all good things do, unfortunately for Nick, Pamela put herself in harm's way, like Nick did with other people. And so she put her safety before others. And as Nick was, as Fury was about to propose to Pamela, there's this entire freaking issue. And he's making a big deal. He's got the wedding ring. He's gonna propose. He puts it on his dog tags. He's like, oh, I won't lose it this time. You know, I'm gonna keep it. And they show him going through all the possible like battles he could. And he still has this ring around his necklace, like waiting to get home to her to propose. Yeah. He almost loses it in the ocean, and he still retrieves it. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And he finally gets back home. He goes to the house. He goes to her dad, and he's like, sir, I just wanted to do this proper, and I wanted to ask if I may have your daughter's hand in marriage. The dad's in shambles, and he's like, Nick, didn't they tell you? And he's like, tell me what? And he's like, didn't you talk to the colonel? And he's like, oh no, I skedaddled out of there real quick. Why? What? I had to be here. Why? And he's like, she died. Oh, she got killed. She got killed like in an air raid, like a bomb fell on her, and she died. And so that broke Nick Fury. And so Pamela is considered perhaps his one only true love. So I actually have the comic page here for you. So that's when he's going back and he finds out that she is officially deceased.
Oh my gosh.
But the thing that because, like when I do these things, when I do these comparisons, I jot down all the comic book stuff first. And if it's a character I'm not readily familiar with in the MCU, I'm like, let me type in their name and see if there's an MCU version. And so, shockingly enough, there is an MCU counterpart for Pamela Hawley.
Oh my gosh.
And so, she is portrayed by actress Jenny Agutter in first seen, for the record, in 2012's The Avengers, then seen in 2014's Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And so, mind-blowing moment, Pamela is the woman that Natasha impersonated when she had the face veil. And she's one of the executors.
One of the security councils?
One of the council people from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
That woman, like when Robert Redford is about to shoot her. And that,
I'm sorry, did I step on your moment?
Yes, that character is Pamela Hawley.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was like, dude, what an Easter egg that is. Like, I had no idea. And so I think they have like little interaction. There's no semblance of like that they used to be something, at least in the movies.
Yeah.
But what a Nick Fury Easter egg, because he does say, he's like, Pamela. Like, he says her name like a few times.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa.
That is an Easter egg.
Yeah, I was like, dude, that's a deep cut. So she's actually in the MCU, but, did she die or something?
I was just thinking of that. I don't think
she died.
she did. I think they were like off screen. It was kind of like, hey, we're going to send Natasha in there instead of you.
Yeah.
With the face.
I know, because especially if her last appearance was in Winter Soldier. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's weird. But yeah, so that's interesting.
That's funny. That's crazy.
You know what else is crazy, Jeff?
Tell me.
One of Fury's other love interests, Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Ooh.
So, in the comics, I'm definitely not going into her, because she, for the record, could definitely have her own character study, because she's certainly got enough in the comic books and in the movies now. But in the comics, she first encountered Fury as she was concluding her own S.H.I.E.L.D. training. And the two grew closer over time. So basically, Fury is meeting these women on the job, and then it turns into something more, is more or less what's happening here. And so with Valentina, they eventually became lovers after a failed relationship with another woman named Laura Brown. And so it's kind of diabolical, because Valentina, like, if you don't know Valentina very well, her parents were sleeper agents.
Okay.
They were sleeper agents. So she comes from a family of villains, basically. And so Dum Dum Dugan actually recruited her into S.H.I.E.L.D., not knowing any of that information. And so she's basically been a double agent the entire time. And so they're clearly adopting that into the MCU
100%.
version. And so in the books, even after Val took on the moniker Madam Hydra, for the record, and then was later imprisoned for being exposed and saying, hey, I'm a sleeper agent, Fury still tried to pull her out of jail because he's got some feelings for the lady, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's deep for this gal. So, of course, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, portrayed by Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the MCU, first seen in 2021's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, last seen in 2022's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So, yeah, as of this recording, the Fury and Valentina have not officially crossed paths
Not yet. I feel like Julia knows something. She said that in something.
Did she?
Yeah, and then I think it was during Secret Invasion interviews. Someone had mentioned to Sam Jackson, like, Julia said that, me and Nick Fury are gonna fight, and then Samuel Jackson was like, she must know something I don't know, because I haven't heard anything.
But he's a good liar, so I don't know. But she's got, like, there's got to be something, because she's like, and I've said this long time ago, she's basically doing what Fury did in the beginning. She's
recruiting
pulling
dark people, though.
Exactly. Villains. Thunderbolts. Yes.
I mean, she
Yeah.
probably will be in Thunderbolts.
Oh, 100%. And so they haven't crossed paths yet, but it's obvious from the get-go that they have lots in common. And so, if she's following his route, like it's only inevitable that they have to cross paths. If they don't, oh man, I don't know. They have to. There's no other option.
How long does Samuel L. Jackson ride this thing?
For real.
And how long does Marvel want to keep using Nick Fury?
And also, did we clarify when the Marvels takes place in all of this? Is it before or after?
Because we don't know yet.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Because that could be before Secret Invasion for all we know.
Either it's before or after.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other option, right?
Yeah. So
I don't know.
we'll find out in November.
But he could be like Don Cheadle. He could just be going on forever until he's just, But he's 15 years now. There's not that many people that are up at 15.
Yeah.
It's really rare, but guess we'll see. But yeah, so for Valentina, her next stop is presumably in next year's Thunderbolts film, if not sooner.
Maybe
somewhere.
I mean, what if she makes an appearance at the end of this series?
Dude, that's all. And this is the thing, right? Because Jeff asked me before we started recording, like, what do you think's gonna happen? And it's like the cameos alone. There are so many people that could show up. So many people, like characters we haven't seen yet, recurring characters.
Yeah.
Especially Carol, especially Valentina. We've already got Rhodey.
I like what Fury said though about I forget who asked. I don't know if Talos asked him. It was like, why don't you call the Avengers? And he was like, I don't want them here because in the schools you're just going to impersonate them and then we're all screwed.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, that's a logical way of thinking about it, and a good okay, we don't need them here then.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hard same, right? Like, why would you?
Cool, let Carol Danvers come down here and let someone impersonate the most powerful woman in the galaxy.
Yeah, right? I know, right? Oh my goodness. But they're so utterly convincing, right?
Yeah.
Because, and also, I mean, not to dip into the scrolls too much too soon, but they've showed us in episode 1 how they do it. And so I believe this is quite different from the comics in that they're hooking humans up to this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they're quite literally stealing their consciousness.
Yes.
So it's amplified. It's not just taking their face.
So do they have to, I guess, they haven't explained this yet. Does that other person that they're impersonating have to be alive?
That's a curious question, right?
Do they have to be alive, but they're stealing their consciousness, right? So they'll have their but
because the other people were still alive, yeah?
They
the
were
other
still
people
alive,
were.
but now I'm just digging too deep. I'm like, okay, but they can shape-shift into anything.
Right.
As long as they get a full look at it. That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
So it's like, okay, so they're just shape-shifting, but they still have the mind of whatever's consciousness.
Well, and this could also be part of Gravik's own agenda because he's building something bigger too. And he's got the aid of the scientists, the Ronsons or something, the couple. They mentioned it in episode 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
I forgot the name.
Yeah, and so this could be part of his own thing because Talos and them, they've never needed that. They've just in Captain Marvel, for instance, they just looked at the people on the beach and they turned into those people.
Yeah,
and so if it's a full-on invasion, then I guess they do need the consciousness to quite literally replace these people.
We're so screwed.
We're so screwed. Can you imagine?
1 million scrolls.
Yeah.
Let's say even half of those are, no, even a quarter of those are on Gravik's side.
Exactly. Woof. Yikes, dog.
Director Fury, the council has made a decision.
I recognize the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
And so, speaking of the Skrulls, notable adversaries. And so, like many of our leading characters, Fury has assembled a long lineage of adversaries over the years in the comic books. But for the sake of not having a 4-hour episode, we're going to try and keep it to the most recent events and comparisons. So, quick recap of who Fury has gone against in the comics. They do include Red Skull, Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, and the Zodiac. And on the MCU side, he's gone against Loki, Hydra, the Winter Soldier, Ultron, and of course, Thanos. What do you I want to get your opinion because I mean it's classic PTSD, but why do you think the Thanos thing had such an impact on him.
Oh, the snap?
The blip, yeah. Why do you think it was so
I feel
bad?
like it was the first time that he couldn't prevent anything.
Yeah. I think so too.
Like how do you, like, from a person who's always 3 steps ahead,
Yeah.
who's always conscious of everything that's going on, whether it's earthly or outer space. Mm-hmm. This is the first time where he was like, and he couldn't do anything about it because it was random selection.
Yeah.
So, and then for him to come back from that and knowing how the world changed when everybody was back, he was like,
Yeah.
like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like it was
Maybe.
like he's so used to not necessarily winning, but he's so used to being prepared
Yeah.
and in a controlling position
Yeah.
that for him to lose that severely, it's like part ego,
Yeah.
but part just like that's what happens to a person that's not used
Yeah,
to
like
that.
like that conversation he had with Olivia Colman's character in the first episode.
Who is incredible for the
Yeah.
record.
Oh my God.
Do you watch The Crown?
I don't. I know.
she's
But I was like, oh,
phenomenal.
that's where she's from.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
And so I was like, it was that conversation where she said, like, he was like, where he asked, like, oh, like, what's in that hangar or whatever, and she was like, the fact that you don't know worries me because the Fury that I know is always 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and the way, and then the second episode when she handled the interrogation, I was like, oh yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that was amazing for the record.
concise,
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
to the point. I was like, oh yeah, I'd be scared.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. I probably should have included her in all this discussion, but we're talking about her good enough right now. So yeah. She's yeah.
But yeah, and then for him to just go up to space and stay there and develop Saber.
Yeah.
But then to come back to Earth and just think that he can waltz back into Earth and think everything's like all good.
Yeah.
And I was telling Dai before we record, I was like, I don't know, like when he's gonna realize like
Yeah.
you're not the same anymore. Like you're gonna lose.
I mean, that might be why they do emphasize that he is older and that he's aged and he's a shadow of a man. You
Like,
know?
I don't know if this is a hot take, but he's the reason Maria died.
That's true.
Like it's
Sad
his
but true.
fault.
It is.
Like it's legit his fault.
Yeah, exactly.
If he didn't come back, they probably wouldn't be in that mess.
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, they probably wouldn't be in a place to potentially stop this. But no.
Yeah. Gosh, it's
his fault. Maria's dead. His fault.
It should have been him.
It should have been me.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, like just thinking about the episode too and going back to it, just like it's all catching up to him, I think, too, right?
And I think it's gonna hit a peak. And I think it's gonna reach, now we're just delving into like what we think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
I think Gaia switches at some point.
Oh, she has to.
She has to.
She has to.
But I think
even now she's like playing them both.
I don't know if it like, does Nick have to lose another one? Does Talos have to freaking die for him to be like, oh,
my
crap.
bad. Yeah, exactly.
And that's when the switch happens for Gaia,
Right.
and that's when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And then Rhodey's a scroll, and then
I'm telling you, dude. So yeah, back to adversaries real quick. So yeah, most recently and relevantly, Fury has found himself near over his head with the scroll. And so in the comics, they're a species that have been floating around for quite some time, same as the MCU goes, but in the comics, they're known as extraterrestrial shapeshifters. That's pretty much the easy version of it. The original Secret Invasion. So that storyline was actually introduced pretty modernly in 2007. The Skrulls had just lost their homeworld, and it's called Tarnax 4. Later named Throne World. And so what happened to that is, you're familiar with Galactus, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
Galactus destroyed their planet, had it for nom-noms. Yeah. Yeah. And so the Skrull as a people, as a species, they've harbored resentment and distaste for the superpowered, especially those on Earth, for like decades and for as long as you could probably look back on in Marvel history. And so after they lost their home in the comics, they just basically decided, you know what? We're going to take over their planet because we don't like them. And so the series version of that mentality is so much different because in the series, it's like they became refugees once their planet was lost. So once, they became refugees in the books, they decided we're going to take over Earth. And so the messed up thing is that it got so bad, as we're going to start to see in the show, like, it's like you said, the Avengers were all Skrulls at one point.
That's insane.
Every single one of them, because they couldn't trust anybody. And so it isn't until, I believe, like, in the books, like, they've got Elektra dies, right? And she's on, like, the operating table and reverts back to a Skrull. And they're like, oh, shh. Like, they don't know. And so from that point on, Fury is like, can't trust anybody. He decides to make a new team of people that he can trust and all that stuff. And so in the comics, the new team that he formulated, this is where it started to, I was like, dang, like, again, the series could go in so many directions. And this part that I'm about to say is a reason why. I was like, man, it could really, like, go that way. This is one of the options. So when things started to get squirrely, Fury was like, okay, I'm not going to call the Avengers. I'm going to make a new team of people that I know I can trust. And so he started to pull together Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, my gosh.
Which included Yo-Yo Rodriguez.
Oh, wow. I forgot about Yo-Yo.
And Daisy Johnson.
Quake!
And so, yeah, like, Jeff and I were talking earlier, like, and even before the show, like last week or whatever, a few days ago, because there's a Daisy Johnson Easter egg in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
And so, for those who aren't aware, in the second Spider-Verse film, when Miles Morales comes back to his dorm room and Gunky is playing the video games, fans found an Easter egg of Chloe Bennett as Quake on a newspaper in Miles's room, which I think is so mind-blowing because you have to remember that's Sony Animation calling back to, is it Peacock or NBC, ABC, NBC, whatever. ABC's Marvel series that has been all but retconned. You know what I mean? And so now it's like, well, if you think about it, especially with what Chloe has been saying on social, she's been like sharp and a little snarky about it, but like
she's been dabbling.
It's also like, why are you hanging out with Simu Liu?
Maybe they're friends. I don't know.
They're totally friends, but like, Asian superheroes, huh? Agents of Atlas, maybe. And so that this is a possibility, like in the books, that Fury might gather, because he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the show. He was in 2 episodes.
He was in 2.
So he knows.
So he's aware.
He's aware of that.
Ghost Rider, baby.
Yo, if they put like Nick Cage in Flash, I mean, they can put him in. They can put him in.
If Daisy Johnson pops.
Oh, you mean Robbie Reyes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's Uncle Tommy now from The Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be dope too, though. But if
Daisy Johnson pops up,
dude. Yeah.
I'm turning off the TV.
Really?
I'm like, nope, I don't believe it. This is insane. What are they doing here?
I am kind of living if it happens, because my friend,
I'd be excited.
Like one of my dear friends, like Chloe Bennett is her, like that's her girl.
I love her too. When the show's going on, I love her too. Yeah.
And so if Quake comes back, and it's Chloe Bennett, and it's in this proximity, like
I'm losing it.
Dude,
I'm losing it.
It's gonna be a trip. So the Skrull in the MCU, of course, they're depicted a little differently. They're known as technologically advanced race of reptilian humanoids native to the destroyed planet of Skrullos. I think Skrullos is really weird and silly. It's like,
you think so?
Skrulls from Skrullos. Like,
I mean, Mandalorians.
Okay, fair. You got me there. I got nothing now. Yeah, and I didn't want to go into it because, again, like we could do a whole episode on Skrulls, but yeah, like I'm not sure what the relevance of Tarnax 4 is, for instance, right? Tarnax 4, but it sounds very galactical.
Yeah.
Versus Skrullos. But yeah, whatever. So the in the MCU, it's a little more simplified, as much as it is complex as far as like what they describe them as, especially the reptilian part. Like they're really trying to put across that the reptilian, because I think they even said that in the the episode.
Like, what in the reptilian, something like that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's new. And so yeah, we were first officially introduced to them in Captain Marvel, and further introduced to Gravik and Gaia, portrayed by Kingsley Ben-Adir and Emilia Clarke, respectively, in the series. So yeah, I mean, sky's the limit, dude. Like, we've probably seen at least, I don't know, not counting the obvious Skrull, like every other person that has been on screen could be a Skrull in the series. Every single freaking one. So I don't know.
That's what's like scary. You're like, okay, well, we don't know who's possibly a Skrull now.
Yep. Oh, so big question is, and I already know the answer to this because I looked it up.
Huh.
Do you think Nick knows his wife is a Skrull?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So the director, like I think it was Variety or somebody was like, so does he know that she's a Skrull? And he said the way that they wrote it in the script is very obvious that he knows, that he's aware and acknowledges that she's not human. But the way that they filmed it gave off another, like, it did make you kind of go, wait, does he know?
Oh, I didn't see it as that.
Oh, really?
No.
No, not at all.
No, I saw it as her being protective of herself.
100% same as well.
Yeah.
And so he liked the way they played it so much that he decided to let people wonder, oh, does he know?
Does he know?
Yeah. So it is very, like, it is intentional that they did it that way, but yeah.
No, I think he's very well aware.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, like, to call back, she is the same woman that they featured earlier in the episode who brought Gravik to Fury in the first place.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yes, that's the same woman, or Skrull, rather. So I didn't want to read the article too much further because I was like, no, I'm afraid I'm going to read something I don't want to.
Send it to me.
But yeah, you're the brave one. But he did mention that further in the series, we will see that there is more to that story than we know at the moment.
Yeah.
So I had a hunch that perhaps Gravik is her son, and this could be a weird, contentious, like, stepson versus. That would be too easy. So I'm not
I don't
sure.
think so, because I think she said at the beginning.
Yeah, he was orphaned, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's like,
yeah,
like,
and so I'm curious what he meant by that, because he says like they have a connections deeper than whatever. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. Yeah. I feel like there's definitely something.
We'll see.
So, I mean, like, should we even discuss the future of the character in the MCU? Because it's kind of like I don't know. I'm 50-50 that he could die in this series, but to your point, he is in the Marvels. So,
like I said, he's one of those characters where you can just, if you wanted to, you can just plop him in.
Yeah.
You know, and it'll still have significant value.
100%. Yeah.
So it's like,
that's how he's lasted for 15 years without a solo anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, especially after the Marvels.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where it goes because.
Yeah. For sure. So almost was. This one was kind of fun because, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it was kind of from the get-go, like Sam Jackson had it.
Yeah.
But they did option this character before because, you know, as we mentioned, you know, David Hasselhoff also portrayed him before Sam Jackson did. So, evidently, Nick Fury was supposed to appear in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer with Jessica Alba and crew.
Whoa.
So, unfortunately, due to rights issues at the time, can't imagine what those are like. He was Nick Fury himself as a character was substituted by another character named General Hager. So that's the guy that's in the film, portrayed by Andre Braugher. I can't say words, but he's the main general that interacts with the family, and so that's supposed to be Nick Fury. But again, the rights were an issue, so they're like, let's write in somebody else. And so Marvel Studios was fully prepared to bring Nick Fury in at that point, with George Clooney attached to the role.
That's crazy.
Until he decided to review the source material, and he deemed Nick Fury a little too violent for his taste, which is funny because then he did Batman Forever. So, meh. Sure, go ahead with your bad self. So it never happened. And so the very first and only option for MCU Nick Fury inevitably became the likeness that he was in the comics, which is Samuel L. Jackson. With that, suggested reading, 2001's Fury, a Marvel miniseries from creative team Garth Ennis, Derek Robertson, and Jimmy Palmiotti. That follows the aging Fury, aching literally to be relevant again. It's funny because the first issue, the cover is like an older Nick Fury, the Nick Fury Sr., so he's the white one, and he's using like a walker.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so he's described as a Cold War dinosaur in that. And so it's an interesting read. 2011's Battle Scars, featuring creative team, oh god, this is a long one, Christopher Yost, Cullen Bunn, Matt Fraction, Scott George Eaton, Andrew Hennessy, Jason Praz, Guru EFX, Paul Mounts, Joe Sabino, and Alejandro Arbona. Nice. That series in particular, that's the one that introduces Nick Fury Jr. and that entire backstory of Marcus Johnson. So that's definitely a good one to read, especially if you're confused still about like the white Nick Fury and black Nick Fury. Battle Scars will definitely clear that up. 2014's Original Sin event, and so that again, that's the one we've talked about that includes the Watcher and all that weird, funky stuff. The Original Sin event is like it spans over multiple titles, but the original creative team included Mark Waid, who is a big Daredevil writer, and Jim Chung, who's most notably for Young Avengers artwork. Follows the Watcher, the Stolen Eyes, the Man on the Wall, that entire Space Galactic thing. That's that title, or event rather. And then, last but not least, 1968's Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., title with the original creative team of Jim Steranko, Joe Sinnott, and Sam Rosen. And so, it's been heralded to contain some of the best Nick Fury stories ever told. And so if you want some wartime, like, cigar-chewing Nick Fury, that's the title to go to. And with that, that's the end of the show.
Whoa.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. Our next episode, we haven't decided.
We haven't yet, huh?
No, we haven't. So we have a few options that I will not mention at the moment, but we do have a couple. So it's the last character study we have before our next mini Marvel, which is mini Marvel number 10. So if you have anything that you'd like to hear or any characters you'd like us to cover, just let us know. We are Groot. Salute to Andrew, Eve, Ariel, Andrea, the Arachnerd, Sherry, Ed, Joliz, Ashley, Melanie, Laura, Katie, Jenny, Claire, Nats, and Robin. Follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. And if you like what you hear, please review, rate, and subscribe.
Woo!
Woo! Woo! That's the end of the show.
Once again, thanks for listening. We'll catch y'all in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You don't think we wiped your clearance from the system?
I know you erased my password. Probably deleted my retinal scan. But if you want to stay ahead of me, Mr. Secretary, you need to keep both eyes open.